2 weeks ago, the Miss Budweiser grabbed the 1984 National High Points Championship with a victory in San Diego. Its driver, Jim Kropfeld of Cincinnati, Ohio. His counterpart, Chip Hanauer, the defending national champ, hopes to prove that his sled, the Atlas Van Lines, is still the fastest boat in the fleet. Kropfeld and Hanauer, the racing and rivalry continue.
This is the 1984 Missouri Governor's Cup Unlimited Hydroplane Race. Brought to you by Ford and your local Ford dealer.
From the center of Missouri, the Show Me State, comes race number 9 on the 1984 Unlimited Hydroplane Racing Circuit. Hi, everybody. I'm Don Poyer, and welcome to Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri, a beautiful setting for the second-to-last race for 1984. From here, we go on to Houston and the World Championships next week. Since we last talked, we now have a new national champion, the Budweiser, with driver Jim Kropfeld and owner Bernie Little. Congratulations to them. And what would a race be without some drama? The Squire Shop, number 2 in national points, damaged the boat when they lost the blade off of a propeller during testing Friday night. They worked late Friday night, all day Saturday, all night Saturday night at a local marina, and they brought the boat in this morning, and we hope that they'll be ready in time for Heat 1A. Jim Hendrick is down at the camp right now. Let's get an update.
They're still busy on the boat, but the man who should know if the Squire Shop's going to be ready is the driver, Mickey Riemann. Mickey, they've worked hard. Are you ready?
I'm ready. The guy's got quite a bit to do yet. We have about 20 minutes before we have to fire the engine. That's kind of our cutoff time, and it looks like we'll make it.
Okay, they've worked very, very hard. They've been a hard luck team all year, and I understand, as I recall the last race at San Diego, the saltwater darn near killed the engine of Tostiasti, and Don Poyer's down there to find out how that team is ready to go.
Jim, I'm with Steve Reynolds, the driver of the Tostiasti, and I would imagine you're probably the happiest person to be out of San Diego.
You know, I love the weather, but I don't like the salt water. We came here, and all the problems we experienced down in San Diego just disappeared instantly. We're running great. We had a few problems earlier in the week. We got those ironed out, and boy, I'll tell you what, the Tosti is ready to run.
Okay, I'm excited. Anxious to see you out there.
Thank you. Me too. I can't wait. It's been so long since we've been competitive. I'm ready to go.
Okay, the Tosti is ready. Let's go now to Jim Hendrick for the lineup of Heat 1A.
Well, Don, all in all, there are 9 unlimited hydroplanes here for the Missouri Governor's Cup. 5 will run in Heat 1A and 4 in Heat 1B. Now let's check the lineup for Heat 1A. Jerry Hopp will pilot the Rampage 3, the U-20. He checked in at a qualifying speed of 108.030. Miss Executone Telephone with George Johnson at the wheel. Qualifying speed 125.313. The Light All-Star will see competition in Heat 1A. Tom Deeth, 127.407 for qualifying speed. Miss Budweiser with Jim Kropfeld at 127.497. And the Squire Shop with Mickey Riemann at 132.120. And that's the way they stack up for Heat 1A today. In Heat 1B, 4 boats, and Don Poyer has that list.
Jim, Heat 1B looks like it'll be a matchup between 2 of the hotter turbine boats, that being the Atlas Van Lines and the Tostiasti. Here's the rundown for Heat 1B. First of all, the American Speedy Printing, the U6 with Ron Snyder, the Buckeye out of Ohio, at a speed of 108.972. The U-22, the Joe Ritchie Spirit of Detroit, with Todd Garling aboard, qualifying at 113.953. The U-10, the Miss Tostiasti, the turbine-powered boat with Steve Reynolds out of Seattle, qualifying at 131.310. And the U-1, the Atlas Van Lines with Chip Hanauer aboard, qualifying at a sizzling 142.360 miles per hour. So the stage is set for Heat 1A, 1B in the Missouri Governor's Cup on Lake of the Ozarks for 1984. We'll be right back with our first action of the day in just a moment.
Fire that other engine. Yeah.
Don Poyer along with Jim Henrik back at the Lake of the Ozarks. In the foreground, Jim Harvey with the glasses, the crew chief for the Squire Shop. A race of their own right now. The hair dryer being used to dry the glue underneath the boat after those heavy repairs that they just made over last night. Of course, they need to get the boat ready in time for Heat 1A. Ironically, the Squire Shop is the top qualifier for Heat 1A at 132 plus. The Budweiser, the Light All-Star, Executone Telephones, and Rampage 3. The records are young here. The initial race was just last year, but the Budweiser set a heat record of over 120 miles per hour. And for a lap record, a very good one, 133 plus. Now a close-up at the men riding the sleds. Jerry Hopp will be driving the U-20, the Rampage 3. George Johnston and the Miss Executone Telephones qualifying at around 125 miles per hour. Tom Deeth and the Light All-Star. This boat has been performing very well this week here at Lake of the Ozarks. Jim Kropfeld and the national champion Budweiser, the U-12. And Mickey Riemann, the Union Bay Squire Shop, qualifying at over 132. And what a job by Mickey's crew. The boat's ready to go for 1A. The glue may still be wet on the bottom of the boat, but they're going to race. There's Jim Harvey with Kelly and John, a couple of the crew members. The Squire's ready. As we said earlier, a 5-boat heat for 1A with the Budweiser in lane 1, the Squire Shop in lane 2. Coming up way on the outside, you'll see the Executone Telephones. There's the Budweiser along with Mickey Riemann and the Squire. Going into the first turn, you see the Budweiser on the right of the screen. In the center, the Squire Shop. And the Light All-Star with Tom Deeth. On the outside, the Executone Telephones. George Johnson, aggressive in that turn. Coming way wide on the outside, as you see. Ooh, a little fire on the Executone Telephones. We'll see if he has to slow down. There's the third place boat, the Light All-Star. Check that, the second place. There's the Executone Telephones. George Johnson done for the heat. It appears he's blown an engine. The Budweiser comes in to the second turn now in first place. National champion winner, of course, after getting that victory in San Diego just 2 weeks ago. Jim Kropfeld in the Budweiser coming around to complete lap number 1. This is a 2.5-mile course. In second place on the outside is the Light All-Star with Tom Deeth. Speed for the Budweiser, completing lap number 1 here on Lake of the Ozarks. 113.837 miles per hour. The Light All-Star at 110 miles per hour. In third place is the Squire Shop. A miracle that boat is even here, competing on a Sunday after that damage suffered Friday night while testing. The Budweiser holding on to first place, a familiar sight here in 1984. They've won 5 races out of the 8 that have been completed in 1984. Down the back chute on this 2.5-mile course. Here comes the Light All-Star on the outside. Tom Deeth playing around now with the Budweiser. You've got the beer boats out in front here in Heat 1A on the Lake of the Ozarks. The second running of this race. It began last year here at Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri. The Budweiser holding on to lane number 1. Kropfeld against Deeth, 2 of the veterans in this sport. Jim Kropfeld getting victory number 9 2 weeks ago in San Diego. Tom Deeth, a Gold Cup winner in the past, and right now he seems to be up and almost even with the Budweiser coming down, completing lap number 2. The Budweiser and the Light All-Star. Tom Deeth against Jim Kropfeld. Almost dead even now as they come past the start-finish line, completing lap number 2. It's the Light All-Star slightly ahead. In fact, he has the lead according to the computer readout at a speed of 117 miles per hour. But the Budweiser with lane number 1 holding on to the lead, coming back and re-grabbing it is Jim Kropfeld with the beer boat. The other beer boat, the Light All-Star on the outside. They've had trouble with the handling of this boat at higher speeds, simply and quite honestly because they've not run at high speeds all that much this year. But it's performing pretty well right now for Tom Deeth. And Jim Kropfeld on the inside, not used to seeing that man. There's the Rampage 3 with Jerry Hopp aboard. He is currently in 4th place with the U-20. The Light All-Star going into the second turn now, slightly ahead it appears from this camera angle of the Budweiser. 2 veteran drivers, as I said earlier, having a lot of fun, and believe me, it is not that easy to race this close in these unlimited hydroplanes, especially in the turns. The Budweiser on the inside, the Light All-Star on the outside. Jim Kropfeld against Tom Deeth, a couple of veterans that know their way around the race course. And of course, there's the Squire Shop along with Mickey Riemann, number 2 in national points in 1984. The Rampage 3 with Jerry Hopp out of the town of Snohomish, Washington. That's where he comes from. Their base, the boat, with Bill McFadden, the owner, out of Seattle. But back to our leaders. the Bud and the Light. The Griffin engine powering the Budweiser, the turbine powering the Light All-Star. The Merlin engine powering the Squire Shop with Mickey Riemann. And look at the lead now that the Light is stretched out going down the back chute, but very quickly again, the Budweiser not about to lose control with Jim Kropfeld coming right up next to Tom Deeth as they go into this turn. And keep in mind now, ooh, look at the Light All-Star. Oh my goodness, he hooked it just slightly out there in those choppy waters on the second turn. But Tom Deeth is still holding on. He has second place. The Budweiser gaining a little bit now as he comes down the main chute. We'll get a speed for him as he goes past the start-finish line. Look at, there's Tom Deeth again coming right back up next to the Budweiser as they come down the main straightaway here on the Lake of the Ozarks. Let's get a speed now on the Budweiser and the Light All-Star. Both of them very, very close, and the speeds indicated. For the Bud, 107 miles per hour. For the Light All-Star, 106.0. Jim Kropfeld, of course, winning the national title 2 weeks ago. Tom Deeth, last time he got a victory was back in 1982 when he was driving the Squire Shop for Bob Style. The Squire currently with their new boat is in third place after a great job of the crew putting it together after those damages Friday night when they lost a blade of their prop, damaging the transom of the boat. But by working Friday night, Saturday, and Saturday night at a local marina, they were able to get the boat together. A beautiful shot as you see the Budweiser and the Light coming down, heading for the checkered flag. And it appears it'll be the Budweiser, Jim Kropfeld, winning Heat 1A, the Light All-Star second. So the Budweiser, which had already garnered 8,000 points coming into this race, picks up another 400. The Light All-Star second, the Squire Shop, and on down the line. Let's go to Jim Hendrick down in the pits.
Okay, down the winning driver, Heat 1A, Jim Kropfeld. Jim, you had a little tag battle out there with Tommy Deeth.
Well, you know, it's the first time that Tommy got his boat running this year really good, and I was surprised. And of course, I saw what he qualified at yesterday, just about what we did, but, you know, naturally, I don't take the Budweiser out and try to be the fast qualifier, but it was a good race, and for Mick, I saw Mickey going in the first turn. Mickey was next to me, and all of a sudden I seen him stick his hand up. I thought, well, he blew an engine. That's the end of that. But he kept running. I don't know what happened to Mickey.
You're making a boss man nervous with close finishes like that, right, Bernie?
That's right. And I got to tell you, when the Budweiser and the Miller Lite are side by side, I'm worried a lot.
Speaking of the Light All-Star, Don Poyer's down there to talk with the driver, Tommy Deeth. Let's go down.
Other than maybe the race in Seattle where we had a 3-boat race going all 5 laps, this was a fantastic performance by you and the Light.
Well, the Budweiser sure made it rough for me. We were deck-to-deck racing out there, which is what this sport's all about. We were proud that the Light All-Star was able to get up in there and mix it up with the Bud.
Bob, we're delighted for you.
Well, we are too, and the crew and Tommy the driver, all of them, our sponsor, Light All-Star.
It's nice to be able to drive next to a driver that you trust, don't you, as far as holding lanes and turns, things like that?
Oh yeah, I've raced against Jim many years in the limited and the Grand Prix class, and so there's no problem at all with us running side by side. My driving got a little untidy that last corner, and I almost lost it, but we made up for it. We just about got him at the finish.
Nice to see a smile on Tom Deeth's face again. We're at Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri, and we'll have Heat 1B in just a moment. Don Poyer with Jim Hendrick out at the Lake of the Ozarks. Let's get an update from Jim Harvey on the condition of the Squire Shop after running in Heat 1A. Jim, did it hold together?
It appears everything is where we put it before it went out.
What now, though? Try to do some more patching in the meantime?
No, I think it looks like the patch we made on it's going to be, we intended to make the patch strong enough to last through Houston, and right now it looks like all we have to do is just inspect it every heat, and hopefully it stays together.
So while Jim Harvey makes sure there are no leaks in the Squire Shop, let's move on. The rundown for Heat 1B. Atlas with that very impressive qualifying time. The Tosti Austin with Steve Reynolds, Joe Ritchie Spirit of Detroit, and Ron Snyder with American Speedy Printing. And now the faces of the men performing in Heat 1B. As I said, Ron Snyder out of Piqua, Ohio, the Buckeye. Going next to him will be Todd Yarling out of Madison, Indiana, driving for owner Jim Sedan of Joe Ritchie Spirit of Detroit. Steve Reynolds out of Kent, Washington, driving the turbine-powered Miss Tosti Asti, and he'll go against another turbine-powered boat, of course, the Atlas Van Lines and driver Chip Hanauer in Heat 1B. This is the American Speedy Printing with Ron Snyder aboard. Looks like quite a bit of smoke coming out of there, and my goodness, the Tosti Asti. It looks like, yes, Steve Reynolds is out of the cockpit, and he's not going to be able to run here in Heat 1B, so it'll only be 3 boats. The American Speedy on the inside. The Atlas Van Lines there in lane number 2. And Joe Ritchie Spirit of Detroit in lane 3 for Heat 1B. Its a legal start is already Chip Hanauer, and that powerful Atlas Van Lines, the turbine-powered boat, has the lead going into the first turn with American Speedy printing on the inside. On the outside, you see there Joe Ritchie, Spirit of Detroit, with Todd Yarling, the driver. American Speedy printing on the inside. Looks like he's laboring a little bit. Ron Snyder driving it as Chip Hanauer literally screams down the back chute. There's Snyder and the American Speedy. Back to the Atlas Van Lines already into the turn number 2. This boat handling so beautifully, and of course they went through some major repairs after blowing out the fans in one of their turbines in the final back in San Diego 2 weeks ago. The Joe Ritchie, Spirit of Detroit, the John Stoddinger designed boat. Brand new at the beginning of 1984 with Todd Yarling, one of the most improved drivers on the tour, is driving. And looks like American Speedy Printing is having another tough day. They have gone through virtually 9 engines so far coming into this race in 1984. Some oil problems have really plagued them, and they're going through the engines like wildfire. There you see the American, check that the Atlas Van Lines. Back to the Joe Ritchie Spirit of Detroit. Todd Yarling, we have a 2-boat race. Chip Hanauer and Todd Yarling out for a stroll right now, just trying to pick up enough points in order to move into the final here in the Missouri Governor's Cup on Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri. Chip Hanauer, as I said, they blew out the fans in that engine in San Diego, tearing apart the deck on really both sides. It blew holes in the bottom of that boat. The crew worked night and day and finally got it together in time to come out here. They left Seattle Lake where they made the repairs, but were here in time to qualify and to go ahead and compete. They did a great job of putting it together. This boat was badly damaged back in Detroit a few races ago, losing virtually the entire right sponson. There's the Atlas, but the crew and Jim Sedam, the owner of the Joe Ritchie Spirit of Detroit, got the boat repaired in time to get back on the circuit. But the Atlas Van Lines, one of the lightest boats on the tour and certainly the fastest. It ran 1 lap back at the Gold Cup while qualifying at better than 145 miles per hour. It qualified here on Lake of the Ozarks at better than 142 miles per hour. And of course, everyone is wondering if the turbine can be more consistent. Is it the direction in which unlimited hydroplane racing will go? Chip Hanauer and the Atlas Van Lines coming down the main chute. This, Joe Ritchie, Spirit of Detroit, and Todd Yarling again out of Madison, Indiana. He's been around hydroplanes all his life. So is Chip Hanauer, who of course began racing back when he was only 12 years old. Hanauer, it appears to be in the driver's seat for at least 400 points here in Heat 1B. Hanauer winning 1B in the Atlas Van Lines. So a cakewalk for Mr. Hanauer and company, picking up 400 points. An easy 300, as a matter of fact, for Todd Yarling and company. And tough break for American Speedy Printing and the Tosti Asti. Let's join Jim Hendrick down in the pits.
Okay, the winner of Heat 1B, Don, of course, is a guy that's been showing the short way around the course for quite a few laps and quite a few heats this year, and a winner of a few races, Atlas Van Lines driver Chip Hanauer. Chip, no competition, you just went out for a ride.
Yeah, basically that was it. It's too bad when the Tosti didn't get started and the speedy printing went down. That really left Todd Yarling, and that's really not good competition.
124.6 your fastest lap. You can't take this boat too slow.
No, we really can't. What happens is the boat's designed to run about 160 cleanly. Anything below that, the boat starts to pound really hard. So I've got to run around 120 mile an hour laps to keep the boat clean.
Young Todd Yarling out of Madison, Indiana, finished second in the Joe Ritchie Spirit of Detroit special, and I understand my partner Don Poyer is down there talking to him.
Jim, with maybe the exception of Detroit, where the boat suffered a lot of damage, I think the Joe Ritchie Spirit of Detroit's doing awfully well. Consistency is the key again, Todd.
Well, they were dropping like flies out there. I just kept watching the gauges, making sure it was running right, and I thought all I wanted to do was finish. So right now, it's the name of the game for us.
Good. Jim Sedam, what you feeling?
Oh, great. You know, Don, we started on a 5-year program last year with an old boat. Got a little better this year, a little better next year. We're going to win a race about year 5 and show them all something.
And prior to the calling of Heat 1B, I mentioned that we saw a lot of smoke coming out of this boat, the American Speedy Printing. And it is an oil problem, one that has plagued them throughout 1984. And here is the resulting damage. Shavings from the bearings and the gears. And another engine has been ruined. That's 10 in 1984, 10 engines. But let's move on. Over 2.5 million tourists come to Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri every year. Quite a few of them are here now. We'll be right back in just a minute. As we mentioned earlier, The Tosti Asti had problems in 1A. They're testing the engine now. Let's see if we can get a word with driver Steve Reynolds. What happened? More bad luck?
Well, yeah, I guess that's about all you can say. You know, we went with a quick engine change just prior to that heat, and it had such a severe vibration when I left the dock, I didn't have any choice but to shut it off.
But Mr. Reynolds and the Tosti Asti has another shot. They have no points, but they could get some in Heat 2A. Here's your rundown with the Atlas, the Squire Shop, Rampage 3, and Executone telephones. Time for Heat 2A. On the inside is the Squire Shop, then the Tosti Asti and the Executone telephones. Outside is Rampage 3. I don't see the Atlas van lines. It appears it will not make the start of Heat 2A. From our camera position, virtually on top of the Bagnell Dam, you see the Squire Shop on the right of your screen. In lane 2, the Tosti Asti. Lane 3, Executone going by right now. And on the outside, the U-20, Jerry Hopp aboard the Rampage 3. The Squire Shop, remember all the damage they had to repair, and right now, Mickey Riemann is in first place aboard the Squire Shop. There's the lead between first and second place. The Executone telephone in second with George Johnson aboard in that Lucero design boat. First place belongs to Mickey Riemann, a man who has won virtually 48% of the heats that he has been in. He is a winner, and look at him bounce along that first turn. There are a lot of ground swells on this course, much like Seattle, Washington when they race there. As they go down the main chute, as Mickey Riemann is doing right now, they go somewhat parallel to those ground swells, but they can really cause hydroplanes fits. Going down the back chute, they go against them, which can cause the nose of the boat to dig in. So it's rather treacherous out there right now, as Mickey Riemann aboard the Squire Shop holds on to that lead over the second place boat, the Executone telephones, and George Johnson. Look at the speed of the Squire Shop as they come down the main chute. 120 miles per hour, .821 for the Squire Shop, 114 for the Executone telephones. Third place, Steve Reynolds, right there in the Tosti Asti. Another great shot from the Bagnell Dam as they come down around the first turn. Again, Mickey Riemann going after another victory. He is number 2 in national points aboard the Squire. And the number 3 boat in points is the man behind him right now, the Executone telephones and George Johnson. Mickey Riemann in first place, second place, Executone telephones, third place, that man, Steve Reynolds in the Tosti Asti. The turbine-powered boat, they had fits going through that salt water down in San Diego 2 weeks ago. They got the engines cleared out, cleaned out, and they're running much better here in Heat 2A. Of course, they had problems in Heat 1A, but they've got them cleared up. They made an engine change, and Steve Reynolds is in third place. Mickey Riemann trying to pick up 400 points. He got a third in the earlier heat today, trying to make it into the final. Coming down the main chute, Executone with George Johnson in second place, first place to Mickey Riemann. The Squire Shop going at a clip of about 117 to 115 miles per hour, which translates to about a 145 to 155 mile per hour straightaway. The Rampage 3 with Jerry Hopp aboard out of the Northwest. Bill McFadden owning that boat. And again, the boat's coming right at you as they go into turn number 1. Mickey Riemann in the Squire Shop. He's had a great year. Many people remember the start he had in the Gold Cup final over in Tri-Cities, Washington. George Johnson, second place. Steve Reynolds and the Tosti Asti in third. Again, as you can see now, the Executone not giving up at all as the Executone telephones, and George Johnson is moving up on the Squire Shop. In lane number 2, George Johnson about to pass the Squire. It appears he does, going down the back chute and into the second turn. Remember now, a lot of swells as they go in there. Both boats flying into that turn right now. And keep in mind, you have a man who has never won a heat, George Johnson, right there in the Executone telephones against a man who has won virtually half the heats he's been in, that being Mickey Riemann in the red boat, the Squire Shop. George Johnson with a chance to make a little bit of history today as he completes lap number 4 on this 5-lap heat of 2A. George Johnson, the Executone telephones, in first place ahead of Mickey Riemann. A chance to pick up his first victory ever in the Executone telephone camp. Speed for lap number 4, 117 miles per hour. He is picking them up and laying them down now as you see the third place boat, that being Reynolds, Steve Reynolds in the Tosti Asti, the turbine-powered boat. Back back to the U20, and that's the Rampage 3 with Jerry Hopp still going after more points. He may not beat a lot of people, but I'll tell you, he finishes many races, that is, a very high percentage of finishes for the Rampage 3. But right now, George Johnson is trying to hold on to this lead and pick up his first victory ever in the Unlimited level. Of course, he has been an offshore racer, has picked up victories there, but not here, not on a course for the Unlimited hydroplane. Mickey Riemann giving chase in lane number 1. You can see the rooster tail of the Executone in front of him. Back to Jerry Hopp, who'll pick up some points again in the Rampage 3. Bill McFadden, the owner of this boat, out of Seattle. The Executone, they're toying with different power plants for the future, even what is called a turbocharged Merlin engine, something that's never been done really in the Unlimiteds. They might do it, but right now, on the final lap, down the straightaway for the last time, it's George Johnson on the outside trying to get his first victory. On the inside is Mickey Riemann in the Squire shop, and the Executone telephones will get the victory. Coming in second place, Mickey Riemann and the Squire shop, 300 points. But for the Executone, there's good news and bad news. As you see, they are tied for the day with Atlas Van Lines. And if it comes down to one of those two boats, it would probably be Atlas because they have a faster average speed. We'll find out after Heat 2B who gets into the final. Let's go to Jim Hendrick.
Well, Don, there's a lot of excitement down the Executone telephone camp because it's the first heat victory for this driver, George Johnson, and his team, and it's well earned.
It's about time. It's about time.
Actually, what happened? You got up to the square, you were pushing all the time.
Well, we gave her all we had there. We figured we had a chance to catch him, and, well, we did it. I think we cost us an engine doing it, though, I think.
I understand as you crossed the line, you had some problems. You couldn't have gone one more lap.
No, we had a big pop there. I see a bunch of oil running on the side of the boat down there now, so hope it ain't too bad, though.
George Johnson, the Executone telephone crew, and back up to you, Don.
Coming up, a rematch between the national champion Budweiser and that fast improving Light All-Star. Heat 2B in just a moment. Don Poyer back at Lake of the Ozarks. We have just received word from the official tower that the Atlas suffered a bent prop shaft, therefore unable to start Heat 2A. Let's move on. Here's some of the many fans standing on the Bagnell Dam with a ringside seat at the first turn as you see the boats going by. Great spot to watch. The Budweiser and the Light All-Star. The Joe Ritchie Spirit of Detroit and American Speedy Printing, by the way, has withdrawn. Therefore, we have a 3-boat heat for 2B with the Budweiser, the Light All-Star, and the Joe Ritchie Spirit of Detroit. Here comes the start of the race. Coming right at you in your living room, the Budweiser on the right of your screen. Here comes the Light All-Star, and in third place is the Joe Ritchie Spirit of Detroit with Todd Yarling. The Budweiser coming out of the first turn as you see the Bagnell Dam in the background, which forms this lake. It was built back in 1929. The Budweiser, and here comes company, the Light All-Star with Tom DeHeath on the outside. He even has a bit of a lead as they go down the back chute on lap number 1 here on Lake of the Ozarks. But here comes the Budweiser and Jim Kropfeld going after victory number 10 as an unlimited driver. Again, these two, as Tom DeHeath said, race together in the Grand Prix and the limited levels, so they are very familiar with each other's style, and they're putting on a great show right now on lap number 1 in Heat 2B. The Budweiser, Jim Kropfeld, first place with Tom DeHeath to his outside hip in the Light All-Star. And now on the inside, Todd Yarling is moving up with the Joe Ritchie Spirit of Detroit. 3 straight across from each other, the Bud in the middle, the Light on the outside, and Todd Yarling with the Joe Ritchie on the inside. About to complete lap number 1 with Todd Yarling moving ahead on the inside. Let's get the speeds. They're not all that fast, but they're very competitive. Todd Yarling at 103, the Bud at 103, and the Light All-Star at 102 as they go into the second turn now here, rather the first turn on the second lap. The Budweiser, Todd Yarling, and the Joe Ritchie Spirit of Detroit, and the Light All-Star. And now, as you see, Todd Yarling trying to run away from the 2 beer boats as he goes down the back chute. There is where he goes directly perpendicular against those ground swells. It can be very dangerous, but it appears that that boat is handling it very well. It's a John Stoddicker designed boat, as we mentioned earlier, brand new going into 1984. The Budweiser moving up, and here comes Tom DeHeath. That boat tends to hook a little bit. It did, at least until today. They had trouble with it Saturday, but it looks like they've dialed it in much better and is handling better than even in earlier races today. the Light All-Star on the outside, the Budweiser in the middle, and Todd Yarling with the Joe Ritchie Spirit of Detroit in lane number 1. Speeds for the three boats, 109, 107, 108. They're all right together as they come down the main chute past many fans who are watching alongside the main straightaway out on the shore. There's a bulkhead there, some great viewing areas, and they're seeing some spectacular shots. It's not often you see three boats like this going along together, much like the consolation race that took place in Seattle earlier in this racing season for 1984. In first place from this camera angle, it appears that the Light All-Star has a slight edge with a Budweiser in lane number 2 and the Joe Ritchie Spirit of Detroit in lane number 1. Oh, this is spectacular viewing. Look at this, the Budweiser and its beautiful white, gold, and red trim, the U-12 with a white and blue Light All-Star on the outside, the turbine-powered boat. A reverse turbine engine. It has the exhaust going out the front of the engine rather in the back, much like the Tosti Asti and the Atlas Van Lines. A great shot of Tom DeEath, the veteran driver of both the Limiteds, the Grand Prix, auto racing, and of course, unlimited hydroplane racing. Speeds for the boat. Look at this, straight across the board. 105, 105, 105. All three of them staying very close to each other, and again, trusting each other, especially going around these tight turns here at Lake of the Ozarks. A 2.5-mile course, which is standard for the Unlimiteds, and a 5-lap race. The Budweiser still holding on to second place in the middle, the national points champion. Todd Yarling and the Joe Ritchie Spirit of Detroit in lane number 1, moving up now against one of the beer boats, the Budweiser, the Light All-Star on the outside with Tom DeEath, and they're putting on a whale of a show for the local fans here at Lake of the Ozarks. Todd Yarling, man who finished in second place in Miami in the first race of 1984, trying to pick up more points. Remember, the Light All-Star has 300 points, and the Budweiser with 400 winning an earlier heat. So the Light All-Star needs to pick up some more points to ensure a spot in the final. Joe Ritchie Spirit of Detroit as well, wanting to get more points here. Hopefully another 300 or 225 if it can't beat that boat, the Budweiser. A great race between the Bud, the Light, and the Joe Ritchie Spirit of Detroit. And now we enter the 5th and final lap between the Light, the Bud, and the Joe Ritchie Spirit of Detroit. Remember, this is Budweiser country. Many of the members of the family from Budweiser are here. Of course, the chairman of the board, August Bush III, is in the pits watching this race right now. And I would be very surprised if the Budweiser was going to let its chief competitor, at least on the markets when it comes to beer, the Light All-Star, win in this race. And there goes Jim Kropfeld of the Budweiser down the back chute against those ground swells, beginning to string it out a little bit against his competitors, the Light and the Joe Ritchie. The Budweiser with Jim Kropfeld going after victory number 10 as an unlimited hydroplane driver. He's a shoe-in to make the final, of course, if he finishes here with already the 400 points we mentioned earlier. Kropfeld in first place, the Joe Ritchie Spirit of Detroit in third place, and I believe the Light, there it is, in second place, behind the Budweiser. Coming down to win Heat 2B, the Budweiser with Jim Kropfeld, first place and another 400 points. Second place, Tom DeEath and the Light All-Star, 300. So looking at the three boats, here are the total points for the day. A perfect 800 for the Budweiser, a great 600 for the Light All-Star, and 525 for Joe Ritchie. That should put them in the final. Let's go to Jim Hendrick.
Well, let's bust into this heavy group right now. Victorious in a very tight race again. Thrilling, Jim Kropfeld.
Well, it was a lot of fun. The Joe Ritchie boat was running good, and the boat with Tommy DeEath was really running good. So I could have probably went a little faster, but the water was kind of rough.
August Bush is getting as excited as Bernie when you're out there running. August, what do you think?
I like the competition. That boat called Light and that boat called Budweiser make a good team, Budweiser Light.
Hey, I understand we have another excited young man down there, speaking of Light, and that is, of course, Tommy DeEath, and my co-announcer down there, Don Poyer, is with him. Don?
Jim, we're with a man who has 2 second places today and 2 thrilling second places and great performance. You're having a ball out there, aren't you?
Yeah, this is really great. I haven't done this all year, and I'm really looking forward to it.
How's the boat handling? You're getting up to speeds now where you can start thinking aerodynamics.
Right. We're still working on that. It's not handling quite exactly right, but the Light All-Star will be trimmed for the final heat, and we'll be rare going for it.
You're in the final.
First time this year. History was made today.
Okay, Don, right now we've got the owner, Jim Sedan. We got the driver, Todd Yarling. Todd, Jim, you were excited on that dock. He was leading Budweiser.
Man, that was great. They looked super, super good. That was a heck of a race for the fans and us fans.
Todd, what were you doing on the inside lane with those two fast boats?
I don't know. I kind of caught me by surprise. That was good to get up and run with them. I learned a lot. They taught me a lot while we were out there.
And the Joe Ritchie Special, Spirit of Detroit, will be in the final, Don.
Jim, there's many a rumor flying around about Bernie Little's newer and much lighter boat for 1985. The cockpit's a lot smaller, too. Back to Lake of the Ozarks in a minute.
Am I getting anything?
Yeah, you're going right way.
Don Poyer back at Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri on a cool, crisp, early autumn afternoon here in Missouri. And the final heat rundown is set. The Budweiser on top, and look at the bottom, the Atlas with 400 points. They are in by virtue of a faster average speed for the day over Executone, which also had 400 points. However, there's a very big if. This is the bent prop shaft on the Atlas we were telling you about, and they still have to remove that and put in a new shaft in time for the final. So time is a-wasting for that man, Jim Lucero, the owner and designer of the boat.
Well, right now the driver's pacing down, and he doesn't know. I don't think at this point. What do you think? You going to make it?
50-50.
It's going to be awful tough to stay on the beach.
Yeah, I think we'll make it. You know, they've never not made it before, so they'll give everything they got.
Confidence in his crew, Don.
In regards to the final, let's take a straw poll from the fans watching the race. Who do they like for the final?
What do you think about the final here?
I think Atlas is going to be the one to beat, but we're here rooting for Bud.
Well, the Miss Bud definitely winning.
Atlas Van Lines.
How come?
It's because it's got a jet engine on it. I think it's neat.
Atlas, Tostiesta, and Spirit of Detroit.
Who do you think's going to win this thing? You probably haven't seen much of it, have you?
Oh, I've seen parts of the heat races.
Who's going to win?
Atlas.
How come?
Because it's going to run faster than Budweiser.
This Budweiser, it'll be tough. Light will be running right with it, but we'll blow that turbine away.
We shall see. And as the temperatures dip into the low 50s, it's time to bundle up. We'll have the final for you at Lake of the Ozarks in just a moment. Something different for the final this week. Only 5 boats due to the tightness of the course rather than the usual 6. And there's your rundown. Commissioner Don Jones, the very active commissioner for the Unlimiteds, overseeing the launching of the boats for the final. Mickey Riemann ready to go on that boat that was repaired prior to today's race after losing a prop earlier and damaging the back of the boat Friday night. The Atlas Van Lines repaired in time after that bent prop shaft had to be replaced. Todd Yarling out of Madison, Indiana, the youngster who has really put on a very fine show today in that boat for Joe Ritchie, Spirit of Detroit, the owner, Jim Sedan. Tom DeEath in his first final for 1984, driving the Light All-Star, the turbine-powered boat. They've done very well today. George Johnson, first alternate now in the Executone Telephones. If one of the boats break, he'll get to stay in the final. Danny High strapping him in here. And the national champion, Budweiser, with Jim Cropfail. The final coming up. The 1984 Missouri Governor's Cup final is here, and your last chance to pick a winner between the Bud, the Light, the Squire Shop, Joe Ritchie, and the Atlas Van Lines. And the men calling the shots today, head referee Lee Shaneth, with the men working under him from the helicopter, Mike Noonan, Jerry Zuvich, and Bud Martin. Also the turn judges, Ted Jose, Ron Graham, and Jack Meyer. Here we go with the final. All 5 boats are running, and as a matter of fact, 6 boats. That means the Executone will turn off the field as you see on the left of the screen. So all 5 boats are ready for the final, and here they come down the main straightaway. The Bud on the inside. There goes Mickey Riemann in the Squire Shop. Going into the first turn, the Budweiser with Jim Cropfeld on the right of your screen. Then comes the Squire, then the Light All-Star, and way back is the Atlas Van Lines. Something has gone wrong with Chip Hanauer's turbine-powered boat. It has gone dead in the water just after the start. What a shame, the top qualifier now here in the final heat, and there he's got it going again. Miraculously, we'll have to find out what would happen later on, but in the meantime, the leader, the Budweiser, already into the second turn. A lot of smoke coming out of that huge Griffin engine. The boat running a little rich right now. But Jim Cropfeld has the Bud in first place in the final of the Missouri Governor's Cup for 1984. The boat popping out behind his rooster tail is the Squire Shop with Mickey Riemann. The Bud running a little light on that choppy water and those long ground swells that are present out there in the main straightaway. A rooster tail lead for the Bud over that man, Mickey Riemann, and the Squire Shop. Third place, Tom Deeth and the turbine-powered Light All-Star. The first time that boat has made a final in '84. Fourth place, Todd Yarling and the Joe Ritchie Spirit of Detroit. And here comes the Atlas Van Lines with Chip Hanauer trying to peck away at the field. The Budweiser with about a half a lap lead over the Atlas. Of course, that's probably his chief threat. The Budweiser running it better than 128 miles per hour in the first lap. The Bud in first place, already wrapping up the national championship 2 weeks ago in San Diego, trying to pick up victory number 6 in this 1984 season. The Budweiser in first place, coming down about to complete lap number 2. Jim Cropfeld trying to pick up victory number 10 as an unlimited driver. Again, the Squire Shop trying to hold on to that second place position behind the Budweiser. Speed for the Budweiser, 128.6 miles per hour. For the Squire Shop, 118 miles per hour. In second place, Mickey Riemann out of Seattle. There you can see the positioning by the Budweiser, holding on to that inside, hugging the buoys, coming around as the skid fin digs in and throws water high into the air. Third place still belongs to the Light All-Star and Tom Deeth in the turbine-powered Jim Lucero design boat. Bernie Little, owner of this boat, is going after victory number 51 as an owner, and there you see the Atlas Van Lines chipping away, moving into third place ahead of the Light All-Star, one turbine passing another. Chip Hanauer has moved from 5th to 4th and now into third place going down the back chute. His speeds are now at better than 128 to 129 miles per hour. He's screaming around the course. The 5th place boat now, you saw it, Todd Yarling in the Joe Ritchie Spirit of Detroit. The Budweiser, knowing full well Jim Cropfeld inside, that Chip Hanauer is pecking away, trying to catch up with the Bud. Jim Cropfeld, the Budweiser, first place here in the finals of the Missouri Governor's Cup at Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri. Second place still, the Squire Shop, as you saw him going around the second turn. Down the main chute, let's get a speed on the Budweiser. The Bud at 125.488 miles per hour. Still the Squire Shop, a speed of 118 miles per hour. But that's not enough because the Atlas Van Lines is now going at a clip of 128 miles per hour. You can see the two of the boats behind the Budweiser with a lot of smoke still coming out of the stacks of the Griffin engine inside the Bud. Nevertheless, here comes Atlas Van Lines flying through the air. Chip Hanauer taking over second place, and the Squire Shop drops back into third place. The Atlas now has only one boat in front of him, but he's a long ways ahead. That boat right there, the Budweiser with Jim Cropfeld. I think he's got enough lead to possibly hold on if the boat stays healthy. The rooster tail of the Joe Ritchie Spirit of Detroit in front of the Budweiser as he tries to lap him. The Atlas in second place with Chip Hanauer. Third place, the number 2 man in points for 1984, the Squire Shop. Fourth to the Light All-Star, and fifth to the Joe Ritchie with Todd Yarling aboard. The Budweiser in lane number 1 about to lap Todd Yarling as he comes around the second turn, heading down the main chute. You see some of the choppy water that the Budweiser is having to negotiate. Hopefully, Jim Cropfeld trying to pick up victory number 51 for Bernie Little, as we said earlier. And of course, it's the winningest boat in history. The Atlas Van Lines flying around, usually very forgiving boat on choppy water, is apparently going to hold on to second place. The Budweiser coming down the main straightaway for the final time will pick up the 1984 Missouri Governor's Cup. It goes to the Bud. Second place, Atlas Van Lines after a tough start. A great performance by Chip Hanauer cutting through the field to pick up second place in the final. Third place to Mickey Riemann and the Squire Shop. What can you say about the Budweiser? But it was a perfect day. 3 first-place finishes, and of course the most important one, the final heat. The Atlas coming in second, then came the Squire Shop, Light All-Star, and the Joe Ritchie Spirit of Detroit. We'll return with a final comment at Lake of the Ozarks in just a moment. As the fans work their way to the gates, let's go down to the winner's circle, where Governor Christopher Bond is about to make the trophy presentation to the Budweiser camp.
Jim and Bernie, our sincere congratulations, our very best wishes to you for running a super race and giving us great entertainment.
Thank you very much. Let me hold these a minute because I do want to thank all of the committees, Governor Bond, that has worked so hard to make this race a success. And we're just really glad to be here and participate. We're certainly looking forward to coming back next year. We just hope we'll have your support. And many thanks, Governor.
Thanks so much.
Jim?
Jim, you want to comment on it?
Oh,
there you go.
You got the trophy.
Yes, sir.
Well, we appreciate everyone being out here. It's not too nice of a day as far as the weather goes, or the temperature. The sun is beautiful. It's a beautiful race course. And I'd also like to thank all the committees that work. I know how hard everyone works to volunteer their time and help us go out here and have a lot of fun. And to Governor Bond and everyone down here and Peter Brown and everyone, we thank you. And we'll see y'all next year.
Going back to the start of the race, Chip Hanauer and the Atlas van line in lane 2 suddenly had to slow down after it veered badly right through there, and we understand the steering wheel came loose. Chip Hanauer had to shut down in time to put it back on and then start racing. A tough break for the Atlas camp.
And that's the 1984 edition of the Missouri Governor's Cup here on Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri. Again, congratulations to driver Jim Kropfeld, team owner Bernie Little, and the Budweiser camp as they pick up victory number 6 in 1984. From here, we go to the World Championships down in Houston 1 week from today, and we'll have it here for you. For Jim Henrik, I'm Don Poyer. Thanks for joining us, and so long.